Hello there, Latin 1. So, you've just gotten an introduction to the first parts of the book and to how to read through the chapter. The next thing I'm going to point out to you is the glossary of the book. We're going to go over the vocabulary. We need to know what words mean before we even look at the grammar of them, and sometimes knowing what they mean helps us with the grammar. So, the very first word that they give you, okay, and I'll put this up here and maybe you can screen cap it or something like that. I'm hoping that we all have textbooks because otherwise this will be quite literally impossible. So that is the glossary. So the first word we have in the glossary is eke. So everybody, eke. All right, now in the book it says eke means look. I don't like that. I think that that's too mundane. I think eke is a lot closer to behold, and that sounds a lot more epic. Okay, so eke means behold. So when you translate, you're going to say behold. It just sounds cooler. The next word that you see is puella. Everybody, puella. And puella means girl. And they give it to you in parentheses, a or the girl, but it just means girl. And the reason they give you those parentheses is because in Latin, there are no articles. There's no words like or the or an. It's just baked into the words. So puella means girl. The next word we see is nomine. Everybody say nomine. And again, if you're not practicing this out loud, even though it's a dead language, you're shorting yourself about 40% of what it takes to learn any language is the usage. Okay, so nomine. Not nomine, but nomine. Okay, and that means named. I know in the book it says by name or called, but we're just going to say named. Okay, so nomine means named. And you might notice that nominate reminds you of a word in English, nominate or nominal. Okay, and that's where we get that root. And so you'll often see that what we have in Latin is what gives us our English words. The next word is quae. Everybody say quae. And quae means who, but it doesn't mean like the questioning who. It doesn't mean who is that knocking at my door. It means I know a girl who knocks on doors. Okay, so that who is a very different who. And that's quae. It's just a pronoun. Habitat. Now my son says habitat, and I keep correcting him on it. It's habitat. Okay, like if you touch something and it's hot, you know, that kind of habitat. And it means, now the book does a great job of giving you different options for verbs. I'm a sucker for short sounding words, okay? I think they're more powerful. So habitat does mean he or she or it lives. He or she or it does live. He or she or it is living. And I would never mark you down for using any of those forms, but it is dependent on who we're talking about. So if we're talking about her brother Marcus, it would be he lives. But right now we're talking about Cornelia, so we would say she lives. So anytime you translate a verb, and that's what that is, it's a verb. Anytime you translate a verb, you need to put the he or she or it in front of it, the appropriate one. Don't just say he, she, or it. When you translate it out loud as just a word, say he, she, or it lives. So you just get used to the fact that habitat doesn't just mean lives. It means she lives in this context. Or in a couple chapters, it'll mean he lives, right? And then later on, it lives. Okay, so habitat is where we get the word habitat. Also, cohabitate, inhabit, just the word habit, actually, is something that you live with doing. And there's probably other words, so if you have others, then by all means. Now, the next word is etiam. Everybody say etiam. Okay, etiam doesn't mean also. It means even. Now, even is another form of also, but I want you to get into the habit of using etiam to mean even. Like, I could say, you know, the robbers broke into the house, and they stole the salt and pepper shakers, and they stole the artwork, and they also stole the dog. Okay. Or I could say, the robbers broke into the house, and they stole the salt and pepper shakers, and they stole the artwork, and they even stole the dog. They essentially do the same thing. Like, in addition, there's this, but it's like, oh, it deepens the commitment to that thing. Okay, so use etiam to mean even, and you'll be in much better shape. Okay, and we're going to come back to etiam in a little bit. Now, the next word is wila. Wila. And what you'll notice is wila starts with a V, but it starts with a W sound. Okay, so villa. And in English, we get the word villa. All right, and essentially, it is a large house, an estate house. I would even take the word manor. I think that that's probably better than country house because country house can be kind of confusing. But villa is essentially the large estate house, a manor, that kind of thing. I wouldn't say it's a mansion, by the way. That's a different type of thing. So this is a certain style of house. So it's a villa. And this is where we get the word village. Okay, in the countryside, a whole bunch of people live in a village. And by the way, this vocab video will be broken up into 2 parts. Okay, so when we get to the end of line 2, I'm going to stop and then we'll record another one. So, villa rustica. Okay, rustica. Rustica, not rustica. Rustica. Villa rustica means a country house with a farm attached to it. Well, that's really confusing, right? But the reason why is because you had a villa urbana, a city house, and you had a villa rustica, which was a farm-based country house. And that's why I have trouble with the word country house. So I would actually say that a villa is a manor, and a villa rustica is more like a country house, rich people country house. Rustica is where we get the word rustic, okay? And it often will mean peasant later on, but rustic is something that's country. The next word, ubi, not ubi, ubi. We don't use a y sound in front of our u's unless there's an I there. So ubi. And I have nothing for you really besides the word ubiquitous, and that means something is everywhere, okay, or ubiquity. It's the property of being everywhere. So ubi, and it means where, okay? And it can mean where as in a question, or it could be, that's the place over there where the pig fell down. The next word, aistate. Aistate. So you see that A and E next to each other, it makes the I sound, right? So aistate. And aistate means during the summer. Aistate literally comes from a word that means heat, and the Romans were not very creative with their names of things, so in the hot time, in the summer, right? So it literally means in the summer or during the summer, okay? And that's what it means. Now the next word is on line 3, so I'm going to stop here so we can just tackle lines 3 through 5 in the next chapter, or in the next video. So for right now, I would recommend writing those down and writing down the definitions as I've given you. Feel free to pencil it in, but start memorizing it that way. And there's a bunch of ways to do it. I would recommend Quizlet way more than I would recommend Duolingo. But there's plenty of people that do Ecce Romani on Quizlet. But be careful, because plenty of people share really bad translations on Quizlet that are easy for me to find. So anyway, that's your vocab for the first 2 lines, and I will catch you in a little bit for the next 3 lines. I'm going to hit the button.